Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Unreal Trials and what I think are some of the issues with this content. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the content was really great when I made my first impressions of this content. Those still stand right now as well. I think it pretty much hit on all of the expectations that I had for it. I think the content is fun. I think the implementation could have been a little bit better, but still, I think it is a good addition to the game. And the way that it is right now, I think it also should stay when it comes down to difficulty and how they've handled with like item level syncing and all of that stuff. However, the way that it was introduced to the rest of the community kind of made it seem like this was supposed to be very casual friendly content, whereas in reality this content is technically more difficult than extreme primals, and this mainly because of the item level sync that is in place. Now, the main reason why I think a lot of people were expecting this to be super easy is because it was introduced as the new Wondrous Tales. Wondrous Tales we all know for being very easy content. You unsync old content, you ruffle stomp it, you spend 5 minutes in there. It doesn't matter if you have gear, it doesn't matter if you know the fight, it doesn't matter if you're a good player at the game at all. You just go in, you ruffle stomp it, you have the bonus HP to survive mechanics that you wouldn't normally, and because you also have that higher item level and that higher level itself as well, you just roll over the fights and you don't really have to care about anything. And since this new NPC is set right next to Chloe Eliapo, a lot of people are making this connection between Faux Hollows and Wondrous Tales, that they're both casual content that is supposed to be really easy. Now, of course, it is just another extreme primal. It is synced up from what it was back then, and it feels quite alright to play, but the main difference between this and something like Wondrous Tales is that this is actual endgame content. This is level 80 stuff, and there is also an item level sync on there, meaning that you cannot outgear these fights. When we got, for example, Warrior of Light into the game, if I'm not mistaken, that fight is level synced to item level 480, which is already 20 item levels below the maximum that we currently have. Which is why that fight to do right now is a whole lot easier than, for example, Shiva Unreal, because with Shiva Unreal you do not have this item level boost that we have compared to Warrior of Light. That means that if you get hit by mechanics that you were not supposed to get hit by, you're most likely gonna die. If you're not doing enough DPS, if you are, for example, dying to those mechanics, you're also going to meet the enrage. More often than not, parties that I join do not wipe because we do not have like people just like executing the mechanics correctly, as in like just wiping the whole group from executing the mechanics wrongly, but we are wiping because we know that we won't have the DPS in order to finish the fight when we see some people die multiple times. And that is the main reason why a lot of people also don't like doing this fight, because parties are very inconsistent. And there is also a problem with this because you can't make parties for this with the duty complete option enabled in the party finder. Normally, whenever you've cleared content, you can make new parties in the party finder with duty complete, meaning that only people that have cleared the fight can join your party. Of course, people that have cleared are definitely not necessarily going to be better than people that haven't cleared yet, purely because of the fact that somebody might get carried to the fight, and then of course they can join duty complete parties in the party finder as well. But in general, you're at least not going to have people that haven't cleared the fight yet, that have never set foot into the fight, and that might have these expectations of, oh, this is supposed to be casual content, this is supposed to be easy, whereas that definitely is not the case. Now, for me personally, I think that the item level sync on there is a good thing, because it means that the content stays relevant. Doesn't matter how much gear that you have. If you look back, for example, at Titania and Innocence, the first two trials that we had in this expansion, they're a complete ruffle stomp right now, because the item level increase that we have had over this expansion is already so big. Those fights are just super easy right now, and even bad players can just drag themselves through the fight because you have the HP increase from the gear, because you have the damage increase from the gear, and you don't really have to care about executing everything correctly anymore, because if you get hit by too much stuff, you're most likely gonna survive because of the bonus HP. And if you might not be the best player out there when it comes down to doing damage to a fight, it again doesn't really matter because you have the gear to kind of save you there. But in Unreal Trials, you don't have this gear because of the item level sync. The challenge will always stay there, and if you are failing mechanics, you're also going to die because you don't have that HP boost from being overgeared for the fights. And I think that is something that a lot of people just were not expecting. I think this is a good addition to the game, don't get me wrong, because I do quite enjoy fights staying relevant. It is something that I've always found such a pity. Like, for example, the old Ultimates, even Yukop and Uwu, have become so irrelevant because of the changes that they have made in the like the technical side of how gear scaling works now. So older fights pre-Shadowbringers are just so much easier now when you sink down to them because of these technical changes that they have made to gear scaling, which I think is such a pity because it made those really difficult fights from back in Stormblood kind of easy right now. Yes, of course, the mechanics are still there, but when it comes down to HP check, DPS check and such, that is pretty much irrelevant at this point. And that is something that is never going to be the case with these Unreal fights. So it being item level synced for me personally is a really cool thing. But on the other hand, this was supposed to be easy content. This was supposed to be casual friendly content. A lot of people are not expecting the type of difficulty that this fight brings. Of course, if you're a Savage Raider, you're not gonna have any difficulty with this fight. I think that these fights are probably easier than the Extreme Primals that we are getting now in terms of mechanics. But when it comes down to doing damage, when it comes down to the healing check that is there, it is a whole lot harder than the Extreme Primals that we have right now, because dying in this fight is definitely not as forgiving as it is in the usual Extreme Primals that we have right now. Again, you can't outgear it either, so the challenge will always stay there, and that is something that a lot of people just were not expecting. And the fact that you can't put duty complete on your parties also means that when you do weekly clear parties, there will always be those people that just don't care about it, and even though they are new to the fights, they'll just join in and see if they maybe can get an easy clear, when that is probably not really going to happen. So that's kind of my opinion on the whole technical side of this fight. I guess you could say I don't really like that there's no duty complete option. There will always be people that will just join those parties and grieve them. How annoying that might be, that's just the way that this community is, unfortunately enough. And then again, people were expecting it to be really casual content, super easy content, when in my opinion it is harder than the normal extreme trials that we have in the game right now. So let me know in the comments down below what your opinions are on this content. Would you like to see something change to it? Would you like to maybe just get a duty complete option? I think that would already fix a lot of things. Even though it would not make it perfect, I think it would already be a good change in the right direction. And I'm curious to see if they're going to be changing any of those things going into the future. But that's going to be it for me. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.